Hi everyone, welcome to Community Matters episode 5 and the last one for 2020. It's been an amazing run with so many supportive community members that have come to support us, to spread the word, to educate the community, to make sure that we are united in our fight against combating all this silence and making sure that we are all supported in good ways. So I'm excited and kind of hesitant at the same time because this is a very heavy topic following on from family violence last week or last episode 4. So today we have a very special guest on Community Matters. He is a part of the Victorian Police team. He is a detective. He is a senior member of the police team. And more importantly, he's actually very passionate about the family violence unit. So that's where he's based. So I'm going to actually show a bit of a clip in English to introduce our guest. He is Detective Senior Constable Andy Bajwa, and we are very honored to have him here. And before that, I want to thank Icon Media for making this program a possibility. And the support has been immense, and thank you so much for that from everyone. And so let's get to the show. I'm going to play this video, and for those members that actually do struggle with English, we do have a Hindi version at the end of the session. So stay there, and if you have any queries, any suggestions, any questions, any support that you need, we have a good network, we have a good team. Reach out to us. We're always here for you. Okay, so let's play the video and then we will have the guest on the show.
We know this is a challenging time and that people experiencing family violence may be in a situation that makes it harder to reach out for support. If you or someone you know is feeling unsafe, there are ways to seek help. Victoria Police is here to help you. Organisations such as Safe Steps or In Touch can provide support over the phone or via email. In an emergency, always call 000. There is no excuse for hurting a family member.
Hi, Andy. Welcome to the show. And
Hi, Abby. Thank you.
I want to say thank you for joining us. It's a privilege to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. Look, thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity to engage directly with the community. And,
So just a bit, I'm passionate about this topic, and it's a very sensitive topic for me as well. And I know that in our community, it's a huge topic. So introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who Andy is.
Sure. Look, obviously you've introduced me a little bit about my title and stuff. I'm a Detective Senior Constable of Victoria Police based at the Family Violence Command. So you've got your local police officers in the uniform at the local stations. You've got local detectives in the family violence investigation units. But my work is a little bit different. I'm based at a state task force. It's called Family Violence Command Task Force. So my role as an investigator there is we get intelligence from intel practitioners. We collate data and we try to target the worst of the worst family violence perpetrators within our communities. And we try to do sort of basically go through all their relationship histories with every person they've been with, and that way if any offences are identified, we try to hold them responsible and accountable in the law of court.
Yeah. So this is where we're at. So family violence from a legal perspective. So there's really not much education available for community members, especially those that come into our community after marriage or after reaching adulthood. So who actually aren't born and raised here. The legal part of things can be a bit, funny and unknown and a mystery of sorts. So I think this way is a good way to actually get those support networks out there. So making sure that our community is aware of what's available to them and how to go about getting those out to each other and support each other in need. So how did you actually end up in this profession, Andy?
Ever since I was a kid, I'd always been, really passionate about either going to the army or joining the police force, because of my grandfather being in the Indian Army. So, always into sports and, never enjoyed doing anything for more than a couple of months. So if I had gone into IT or something, I would have probably struggled.
Yeah,
Um, and with Victoria Police, every day is different for me.
yeah,
No matter how many plans I have in place, there's always going to be surprises around the corner. So that's what keeps me
same.
going.
Yeah,
So out of 7 years, I started initially at Sandringham Police Station, Bayside, then Paran, Malvern, transferred across to Werribee, um, and then did few stints here and there as a detective, with local CI, then went to a regional crime squad. For the past 18 months, my original position where I'm based at is Family Violence Command, but I've also done 2.5 months at Homicide Squad.
yeah.
Um,
So
so
you
yeah,
actually would be quite knowledgeable in this area of what we're going to discuss in terms of statistics and how serious an issue it is in our community. So
yeah,
let's get started with the question. So going back to that, so how serious is family violence in our community to your understanding? Like how big is it? How much of an impact does it have on people and the seriousness of it?
look, as I said, I'm really passionate about this theme and to help people, but I go to different people's houses, different family dynamics where things have, really, really gone too far and the damage has been done. So I've seen people in that space. So the answer to your question is, look, it's a very, very serious topic in the community at this point in time. Historically speaking, no matter which police force you talk about, no matter, you talk about community leaders, you talk about us, everyone has evolved over a period of time. Family violence was always kept very hush hush, even in the Western,
In the
cultures.
Western society, yeah, the
Yep.
Mediterranean, the Western,
But
no
now,
matter.
exactly now, things are changing. People are a lot more supportive of nurturing and looking after women in the society, whether they're sisters, mothers, friends, colleagues, and kids. And there is a lot of science behind it too. Um, on average, I think Victoria Police attends hundreds and hundreds of family violence incidents on daily basis. And a lot of them, they end up going to criminal matters. A lot of them, they are purely civil, where we apply for intervention orders and help out people to break that cycle of family violence.
Yeah.
But to summarize, I think the biggest impact it has on families is the psychological damage that it does to people involved,
Yeah.
especially children.
Yeah. In terms of thinking about, you mentioned women, but like, we had this conversation. Who do you think is most affected in the community? Is it the women? Is it the men? Is it the adolescents? Is it the teenagers? Is it the younger children? So, who do you think has the biggest effect from such a thing? Like the long lasting, I would say, the severity of it. Do you think who is going through it the most? Like,
I think statistically speaking, whether it's because of underreporting in certain, sections of the family or relationships, but statistically speaking, women are usually at the forefront as victims when you talk about family violence. And the second major group, that are really, really affected by family violence and the long-lasting effects is the kids. Um,
I think
yeah,
it kind of goes on to not just the actual violence itself as in their childhood, but it kind of can have a vicious cycle of repeating and offending and going to adulthood with that mentality as well, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. Look, I think it's important for me to tell people what the definition or what the legal definition of family violence is in Victoria.
Yeah.
A lot of the people, I believe, Icon Media primary, target audience is people from subcontinent
Yes.
diaspora. So I'm a migrant myself. I immigrated when I was 17 and a half. So back in India, look, at times when a child does something wrong, you might cop a little bit of a stick.
On the back, yes, yes.
Yep, on pat on the back.
If you
But
haven't
again,
done your homework, a ruler on the hand.
yeah, and certain families, certain sectors of the society, people are conditioned in a certain way that they don't even realize. They think that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
They're trying to guide their partner or their kids in the right direction, but they don't understand the scientific. Yeah. So look, family violence in Australia, basically, it's a very common sort of definition: physical, verbal abuse, social abuse, financial abuse, any kind of coercion, control, threats, sexual abuse, even animal abuse to get to someone else. That is all. And recently, dowry was added as well. So
And
that,
also, one key point is property damage as well. So,
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So any criminal offending, obviously, it becomes a no-no. But even if you might think that you're not committing any criminal offense by legal definition, by
you
just
might be.
badgering and embarrassing your partner or doing something which is doing a greater sort of harm to them mentally, that might fit in with the definition of family
It's a
violence.
very gray area, isn't it? It's a very, very gray area. Like, I mean, where does the line is drawn at acceptable to unacceptable is the key, I think, is, and in that education plays a big role in what is okay and what is not okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you don't like something about your partner, requesting them or expressing yourself, that's okay. But telling them, no, you cannot do it, that's power and control.
So
You can't do that.
taking the freedom away from someone else and
Exactly.
not giving them the opportunity to make their own decisions.
Decisions. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I think
So do you
independence is the most.
Yeah, which touched on this subject, so the subcontinent, the Western society, and all that. So, do you think that there are any particular community or demographic area that is at risk within Victoria now? Because we know that, I mean, as much as we don't like to, and we are a very multicultural state, there are segmentations of demographic where there's a larger quantity of the culture reside. So, like in the northern suburbs, there's a large quantity of Sri Lankans and Indians. So, in terms of those, what do you think? Is there a particular demographic that is more affected by family violence than the other?
No, I don't think family violence discriminates, anyways. Look, some
Location
people,
or
yeah,
demographic?
exactly. But again, the reality is people who are from culturally and linguistically, sort of diverse backgrounds like immigrants, they are always going to be at a little bit higher risk because of the lack of education and lack of knowledge, as you said. They might not understand their own rights. They might not know how to seek out support services. They might not know how to report matters to police. And this is where you and I are supposed to come in the picture, have that honest conversation on the show, and try to educate people as to what they should
Do
do.
you think that in the the last 6 months have been a trial and error for every one of us? I mean, it has been an easy ride at all. But do you think that COVID had actually kind of made the whole matter of family violence worse in some cases? Do you see an increase in numbers of reported cases?
Statistically speaking, no.
Okay.
And part of the problem with that is that when victims and offenders they are together in a close space because of COVID lockdowns and restrictions and everything else, sometimes it becomes pretty hard for them to get away from them to contact 000, or they're too scared. And that's the reason that Victoria Police had a massive media drive, the video that you played that was part of that project, because we wanted to let people know that no matter what happens, we are here to support you and to encourage people to report family violence of any sort.
Yeah, and also, being aware that something we touched on last episode as well is that emergency services calls are free. It doesn't cost you anything. So from wherever you are, even from a non-network site, you can still contact emergency services when you need to. So, whether you are financially struggling, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you need help, emergency services are always accessible. Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So give us a bit of an idea. So if there is an offender, there is a victim, and they actually now, seek out legal help or help from the law. So what is the procedures or the protocols that, the Victoria Police or the legal services, the law system follows to help the victim as well as the actions taken against the perpetrator?
So reporting can be done in a lot of different ways. You might ring 000 and police members may attend your address to speak to you, about it. Or you might go to your local police station and speak to someone there, or you might go to multidisciplinary center, where there is, health professionals, like women's health wares, family violence, support agencies, along with Victoria Police, all in the same complex. No matter how the reporting is done, the primary steps, that are taken is initially you've reported an incident. We'll take everything you say pretty seriously. It's all very important for us. I just want to reiterate that point because a lot of the people, they think that they don't have enough evidence to back up their story
Yeah.
and they won't be believed by police. So I just want to draw a line in the sand and say, look, that's not true. We'll always believe what you have to say, but from investigative perspective, we will investigate it further and try to do our own
Of course.
investigation.
We are in a culture. Regardless of that, there may be false allegations, there may be false charges, for someone else's benefit. So it's easy to just hear say, oh, this person has abused me or that person has abused me. So I think that's where the legal system comes in and the law comes in, is that to prove whether it is true or false.
Yeah. But yeah, with genuine victims, sometimes when they're scared, this is my, experience as a detective, sometimes they're very apprehensive to come out because
Yeah.
there is fear, there is shame, there is stigma, then there is other social barriers. But look, I'll come to those points. So basically, the report is taken, we'll get a statement from you, and then our job is to figure out if it is a civil only matter where there is family violence, but no particular criminal offences have been identified, or is it a criminal offence? If there is a criminal offence, then two processes will run a parallel course. So we'll obviously interview the offender. If there is enough evidence, we'll charge them. But the first time you come in contact with us, if we need to intervene then and there to stop the family violence, sort of cycle and to protect you, we will either take out a police initiated family violence safety notice or summons or an arrest warrant for that person issued by the court for the purpose of family violence as per the Family Violence Protection Act. So that's the process we follow to get an intervention order in place. And once an intervention order is granted, it can have different kinds of, conditions to cater your needs. For example, if there is no imminent risk from a particular party, the court might make a condition that you cannot commit any form of family violence against this person. You cannot damage their property. You cannot post anything, but you can still live together. It puts some sort of legal binding on the respondent or the person who is doing all the harm in the marriage or
So
committing.
basically, the IVO or intervention order, as we say, is pretty much like catered to the individual's needs, or the effect the individual's going through, or the victimization. So it's based on the person individually, and not so much as a broad spectrum. This is what's going to happen. This is what you've been issued, and this is what you got to follow. It's not
Look,
stock standard.
initially it is.
Yeah.
If as a police officer I have to issue a family violence safety notice, the law is clear. I have to be satisfied that police intervention is required to protect the affected family members. If I'm going to do that, most likely there's going to be those 5 or 6 generic conditions
Yeah.
that the person who's been the abuser or the perpetrator, they cannot contact the victim by any means. And this is only up till it goes to court.
Court. Yeah.
You still have your say. This is our interim sort of protocol to protect you.
It's that immediate protection. Immediate protection.
Immediate protection.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you are at really, really high risk and the offender is outstanding, we might actually put you, in a secured accommodation, like with safe steps and stuff. So that we work with a lot of other support agencies. So we only look after the legal side of things. I might talk to you, explain the process, instill a little bit of faith of legal system in you. But most of the other stuff is done by the support agencies for
Oh,
us that we
definitely.
work in
Yeah.
conjunction.
I mean, Victoria Police can't do everything, I suppose.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, when in terms of, crime and everything else. So obviously you need the support services. But then I think what we're trying to say is that emergency help, Victoria Police is the first line of contact in terms of, aggravated sort of assault and family violence. Is that right?
Look, yeah, we are the primary response
Yeah.
agency, but at the same time, look, given that it's such a sensitive and serious issue within our society, I think it's only fair that I let people know that if you don't feel comfortable reporting anything to Victoria Police, you can directly go to the support agencies. You might not want to get police involved
Yeah.
because it might not be, any criminal matters.
Yeah.
But at the same time, all I'm going to say is and encourage people is do seek help because it might be, a lot more serious than what you can initially
But then it doesn't
contemplate it.
have to be Victoria Police or even the support services. It could be someone as generic as your GP. And you say, this is what's happening. This is what's happening behind my own front door. So, what's happening? Is this okay or is this not okay? And they will be equipped to kind of guide you in the right direction, whether it's, let it be that, you're being treated this way. This is not okay. You're being treated that way. That is okay. So, I guess it doesn't have to be Victoria Police or
No.
even the support services.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, again, from my personal perspective, I've seen plenty of violence in different families. It's a cycle. You'll have a fight, there will be criminal offenses, assaults, damage. Then you'll go through that makeup phase where you'll make up with each other. Then things will start all over again. Um,
Yeah, it's a
Look,
very vicious cycle, and
very
something
vicious
I've
cycle.
actually seen from childhood to adulthood is one of the most vicious and damaging cycle is that what we instill into the next generation, and that violence does kind of become the norm, and it continues on to the next generation, and then so forth. And it's not just a generational cycle, but it becomes a repeated generational cycle where your own children follow in your footsteps. Um, I think that's where the education for us is very important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, out of all the crime themes in Victoria Police, to be honest, one of the most serious and challenging one is family violence. And
Yeah.
as part of a lot of Royal Commission reforms which um, became the
There is
forefront
a
of
lot of
all the
funding out
planning.
there. I know that that's being put
Yeah,
in to combat this issue. Yeah.
yeah. So all I can say is, look, have faith in the system, have faith in Victoria Police, and that's again, from my experience, I've gone to work every day with full commitment. All I can say is, look, report if because there is no excuse. Your offenders or your perpetrators will always try to manipulate you and play you, mind games with you and control you no matter what tactics they use. But at the same time, the reality is there is no excuse for family violence. If it happens, report it.
So the consequences in terms, yes, physical, damage is there, property damage could be there, if some psychological damage. I mean, in terms of that, we can get support. It is fixable, but there are some things that are not really fixable in terms of violence. Is there like um, death is not something that we can fix and reverse, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunate as it is, statistically speaking, a lot of the homicides, a lot of the murders, in plain, simple terms, are associated with family violence. Not all of them, but very high percentage.
And not just
It's
the
usually,
not just the
yeah,
murders itself through that, but also like the level of suicide.
yeah. And the other thing that people don't understand is the dynamics or the family violence, ongoing dynamics within your family. It's going to have very significant impact on your children. They're going to be psychologically pretty damaged, seeing all the same repetitive abuse and violent behaviors, coercion. And as you said, then slowly it becomes normal for them. And when they grow older, they'll start to, display similar kind of behaviors as well. So,
Yeah. Easy way out in some cases because they've realized that, compliance is easier if it's manipulated or, physical force is used. I think that's where it's a vicious cycle again. So yeah, what overall, I mean, it's a topic that we can really speak about for hours and hours and hours, but still
yeah.
not really go anywhere. Um, what would you give to, everyone as a rule? Like what from your own experiences, what word of advice would you like to offer to the general public?
All I would say is, look, nip it in the bud when it starts.
So
Yes, we
what are
want to
some
be.
okay, nipping in the bud. Okay, just in terms of that. Just a quick overview of what can be that, little ticking off points that can indicate that you're at risk of family violence. What are some signs?
I think most of the science and everything else is within the definition of family violence that I explained. If you see overly protective possessiveness, and it's not just those individual qualities, because some people may have those qualities or behaviors, but still they're great people and great, for the community or personal relationships. But it's the accumulative factors, like, along with that, you've got temper related issues, financial control, emotional abuse, dowry, um, physical
So if
assault,
someone
damage to
overall,
property.
if someone else's experience is actually affecting you in your own self, I think that's a good fair indication that there's something not right.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, your interpretation in a relationship of a lot of things may be different.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if
And also
if
it comes from conditioning from childhood, what you saw as from your own parents and what was acceptable within our own society, as we grew up. I think that plays a big role as well in what we accept and what we don't accept, I suppose.
yeah, that's correct. Um,
Yeah. So all in all, I really want yeah, to educate the members. I mean, I think that's where we all want to do. I mean, Icon Media, Big Police, ourselves in as local community members, we're trying to find those balances and educate and help those vulnerable. There are some support services available to us. I know that you probably wouldn't be able to go through them all, but what are some main ones?
Main ones. Look, if you ever feel that there is any sort of imminent risk to your safety or well-being, obviously 000, and Vicpol will, try
Yeah,
their very best to
everything
help you out.
with their law. Yep.
Yep. And then you've got Safe Steps, and the phone number for Safe Steps is 1800. 800
Yep.
15188. And then there is also In Touch. So basically, In Touch is an organization which specializes in family violence within um, sort of multicultural communities or immigrant communities. So people can actually contact In Touch either by phone, and the video that obviously Abby is going to play at the end that will have phone numbers for Safe Step also have phone
And we would
numbers.
also put a post up with all these numbers as well
Yeah,
after the video.
yeah. But again, as you said, my advice at the end of the show for everyone would be, if you're not confident to approach Victoria Police or report the matter, I understand your circumstances may dictate that you can't go to police, and I respect that. But at the same time, there is ways to go about it. If you go to your GP, let your GP know. What's the worst that's going to happen? The GP might give you a pamphlet which might have phone numbers for a lot of support services, and it might, at least make you feel a little protected when you can actually reach out to some sort of support agency and talk to someone.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, let your employers know, because most of the employers these days, they're very informed about domestic violence and what goes on. And if anything is reported, I'm sure different
Yeah.
organizations will
I
try to do
think
their best.
personally for me, the reason for me doing all this program is so that the imminent and irreversible consequence of death, it doesn't happen. I think, trying to combat that is the ultimate goal, because once that's done, I mean, not just the victim's life is at stake, but also the perpetrator's life is gone as well. So it's like literally finished. So I think that's where, the sole purpose is that, if we combat this, if we educate about it now, then that is not a reality for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the most important parties that the support agencies aren't there purely for victims or affected family members. There is a lot of agencies out there trying to help men or women or whoever so is the perpetrator or the offender in the relationship. It's just about identifying and acknowledging that. If you've got drug or alcohol related issues that are the driving force behind family violence, then you need to seek out help and sort it out. If
And
it's
also, if you have trauma from your own life that's actually kind of aggravating, how you live your own life as well, then you can also get therapy for that, help for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people, it's just the behavioral, disorders that they suffer from,
Yeah.
or it's anger management issues. But there is a lot of help available out there in the social domain. You just got to be willing to, acknowledge those shortcomings and try to work together, as partners or as family members, and support each other and keep each other safe.
Yeah, because none of this, no medical condition, no alcohol or drug affection, um, nothing, even childhood trauma or your own experiences does not excuse the fact that you are hurting another human being.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it in a better way, in words, to be honest. And that's the Victoria Police stance. There is no excuse for family violence.
Yeah,
Um,
like no matter what we're going through, I mean, it's easy to resort to violence or anger or anything, but I think we just need to, you know, make sure that it's not a repetitive sort of pattern.
yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the things that I have mentioned in the episode, remember further down the track, when you feel safe and you want to hold this person accountable who has committed either offenses or crimes against you, whatever, because your circumstances will change. And a lot of these things, they actually form part of very good evidence against offenders down the track. So this is my bread and butter. This is what I basically do. Because every doctor you go and report something to them, they will make contemporaneous notes of whatever happened.
Oh, definitely.
if there is any injuries.
Even us as teachers, we are mandatory reporters. So when it comes to
Yeah,
the children's well-being, we are obligated by law to actually
yeah,
report any signs of violence. So yeah, keep in mind that even if you're not speaking out, we may see that in our institutes, and we are obligated to report that and make notes of that and keep notes of that. So yeah, there is a lot of protocols and legal systems in place for that. So thank you, Andy. I think we can go on and on about it. However, we do have to wrap it up. Thank you for joining us once again. Thank you, Icon Media, for allowing, making this possible. And thank you, Andy, for taking, the time out of your busy schedule to come and join us and give us all this information. I hope it helped at least one person going through a difficult time at this moment.
well, I'm sure that will make my pretty much, day, night, evening, everything, if I can go to bed knowing that I helped one person, out of
Exactly. I
this
think that's where
engagement.
we're all,
Um,
focused towards, is that if we can make a difference for one person, we've done our job right today.
yeah. But look, thank you to you. Thank you, Manish, Icon Media, and most importantly, the community members, who have along the way supported me and helped me to be where I am today.
Always keep an eye out for those people that you might think that is affected, because you might say one or two words, you might actually take an action that might help them from ultimate consequences. So always support the society
Yeah.
and community.
Yeah, if your friends, family members don't want to report, the best you can do is look, just keep encouraging them,
Yeah.
and keep supporting them, keep spreading the love, keep the hatred at bay.
I
And thank
keep
you
saying
again.
to Manish and Kunal as well, I keep saying, when we're united, we're a lot stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. And relationships are so complex. Sometimes they bring the best out of the people, but other times, they bring the worst. Um, yeah, but that's not an excuse in itself, for
But
family
in
violence.
saying that, we all deserve to be living in a happy life, because we only get one chance at it.
Absolutely. Just make the most of your life. Go out there, have fun, enjoy the sun. Um,
We're about to do that. Thank you everyone for joining. So those of you that may have difficulty with English, especially from the Asian subcontinent, we do have the clip, the Vic Paul clip in Hindi as well. So I'm about to show that. So I'm just going to show that, and then we'll come back for the conclusion. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Abby. See you guys.
हम जानते हैं कि यह एक चुनौतीपूर्ण समय है और पारिवारिक हिंसा का सामना करने वाले लोग एक ऐसी स्थिति में हो सकते हैं जिसके कारण उनके लिए सहायता मांगना अधिक कठिन हो सकता है। यदि आप या आपका कोई जानकार असुरक्षित महसूस कर रहा है, तो ऐसे तरीके हो सकते हैं जिनसे आप सहायता प्राप्त कर सकें। विक्टोरिया पुलिस आपकी सहायता के लिए तत्पर है। सेफ स्टेप्स या इन टच जैसे संगठन फोन या ईमेल के माध्यम से आपको समर्थन प्रदान कर सकते हैं। आपातिक स्थिति में हमेशा 000 पर फोन करें। ये सभी सेवाएं आपका संपर्क किसी एक ऐसे व्यक्ति के साथ स्थापित कर सकती हैं जो आपकी पसंदीदा भाषा में बातचीत करता हो। परिवार के किसी भी सदस्य को चोट पहुंचाने के लिए कोई भी कारण सही नहीं हो सकता है।
Thanks, everyone. So this is a wrap for Community Matters for 2020. We will be back again in January with episode 6 for the new year. If you have any suggestions as community members for topics that we should discuss, or topics that we need to address in the community, please send a message or an email to info@iconmediaau.com, and our lovely Manish will get on top of that. So I'm going to say goodbye for 2020. See you back again in the new year. Thank you for joining me for the last 5 episodes, and it's been a pleasure coming live every fortnight for you guys. Thank you. Ciao.